I came upon this abandoned lake house out in the middle of the woods. And being a police officer and interested, I couldn't resist. I had to go check it out. But there was no signs, there was no fences, it was standing wide open, it was abandoned. And when I went inside, there was no graffiti, there was no smell from animals, and so it felt to me as if maybe it had just been abandoned.
Is there anybody here? Hello? Is anybody here?
I just felt drawn to it. I don't know why, I just felt drawn to it. I was looking for something that my son and I could do. And I knew he liked those ghost hunter type shows. We had talked about going ghost hunting in the past, but we had never done it. And this opportunity presented itself. So I texted him and said, hey, what do you think? You want to go ghost hunting with me? He said, yeah, sure. And what I expected was that he and I would scare each other and we'd just have a great time. But I didn't expect there to actually be anything in there.
Okay, what do we got here? Night fishing.
Yeah.
My son and I didn't really have any idea of what we were doing, so we did some research on it and got an idea of what kind of equipment we needed. And so we just grabbed what we could carry. We were just surrounded by woods. It was terrifying, even though we didn't know if there was anything there. We kept straining to hear if there was anything in there, anything for us to worry about. At first, it was quiet, even with your footsteps. The floorboards didn't even creak. At first, it was just a knock here, a knock over there, and then we were hearing sounds we had never heard before. But we're sure that there was an explanation for it, that pipes were shaking or that the wind was causing something.
What is that pounding?
And then it started building into crescendo where it was doing more and more and more knocking and pounding. We kept whispering to each other, what in the world are we hearing? What is this going on? And as we walked, we could feel knocks were underneath our feet and were following us as we went around through the place. And I whispered to my son, I think something's following us. And having been a police officer and been in buildings in the middle of the night and hearing all of the creaking and popping and things that can happen with air conditioning and all of that, I was just convinced that if we looked hard enough, that we would find a natural explanation for all these things.
What was that?
We went downstairs into the basement and the air got really oppressive. And that's where there was a mirror, a gigantic mirror that was behind the bar. And I had my laser temperature gun. Immediately the temperature dropped all the way below freezing to the point that my gun said error, E-R-R, on it. And then there was a resounding pounding or a knock on the wall. Then I started having a bit of a panic attack that there's something here that I don't understand, because I couldn't find that answer. I got really scared and panicky, and my son was absolutely terrified. I wanted to get to the bottom of what all this was, because at this point I still was not convinced it was paranormal. I was convinced that there was some kind of explanation for it. My son was convinced it was paranormal, and he was literally coming out of his skin. He was terrified of it.
I'm out of here. I can't take any more of this.
And so we literally ran up the stairs. I dropped my son off by his apartment, and I kept all of the equipment. And I went back home and actually put everything up in my desk and got distracted. I had waited, I believe it was several weeks before I actually looked at the footage. Because I understand at this point, I'm still not convinced that anything paranormal was involved. I was very, very skeptical. I loaded all of the footage into my computer and was shocked. I heard a growl, but there was something wrong with the growl. It didn't sound like any animal that I was familiar with. I sat back and just stared at my computer monitor for a long time.